There we go. This is my girl right here. I call her, this is Annie. And let me just show you what I'm at and what I'm doing right now. So, wrong, shitty angle. It's a straight 6 250. It's not the original block. I found that out recently while changing out the oil pan gasket. And that's what this project is right here. Right now the oil pan's down. I got to pull it back off. I started putting it back on, but I messed up, so I had to order a new gasket. They only make these 4-piece gaskets for it, not a single 1-piece silicone gasket. So this is my engine hoist. I got a couple 2x4s protecting the fender, 2x6 to provide a support, and I ratchet strapped up off of some of the mounts right there. Help lift it up in order so I can clear the cross member and get that oil pan out. But what's nice is that I do have a working air conditioning. Found another problem as I was going through this. You can't see it really too much here right now, but when I pull, okay, the whole pulley is moving around a little bit. So I got a bad water pump shaft on, it's giving way, so I got a new water pump. I'm going to change that out today as well. Clean it up a little bit more, put it back together and get it running. The goal today though is to get my new oil pump gasket, or oil pan gasket, put back together and getting it back up there. So take care of the leaks that I have. All right, so I'm going to do that and I'll come back to it. So the pan's off. It's been off before, no big deal there. I just wanted to show you some of the progress and some of the issues that we have so far. When I messed up before, what I was doing was I was attaching the cork gasket here. Let me show you these parts. I was laying the cork on here. And then for these rubber parts at the end, because this is a 4-piece gasket, it comes around that way, then there's a rubber piece for the rear main, cork comes around this way, and then another on the timing cover right here, another rubber piece. And what the problem that was occurring was, as I was putting it all together, the rubber was sliding around. And you know, you get frustrated and you kind of rush through it, and that's when everything falls apart. So I'm cleaning everything up, getting all this nice and clean, and as you look at it, there is some, you look at it right here, you can see how the dimples come up a little bit. So these, it's not that big, but as it comes up just even a little bit, that will cut into the cork, and you can see it more pronounced than other ones. Right there it comes up a little bit, there it comes up even more. So I'm going to have to work my way around and push these down nice and flat and flush. That's a matter of coming from underneath to support it and then tapping down on this to flatten it out. Once that's all said and done, once this is all cleaned up, I'll probably give it another coat of paint just because I'm anal that way. And I'll be ready to reinstall this oil pan. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm not going to do anything to the oil pan. I'm actually going to attach everything to the engine itself. So I'll go underneath, and on the block side, I'll put the gasket sealant up there, then I'll put the cork up, then I'll actually put a bolt in each one of the holes to hold that cork in place while it kind of doesn't cure, but as it kind of sets and tackies up. And then I'll attach, I'll put down the gasket sealant, put down my rubber pieces, put bolts in that spot right there so it attaches and it stays. I do have to clean up down there a little bit more, just the oil that keeps, you know, coming out of the pump and off the crank and everything else like that. If there's any oil, it's going to have a hard time for the sealant to work. Once I get to that point, I'll start it back up and show you again. But this is where I'm at right now. I'm just getting it cleaned up. You see it's cleaned up nicely. You have a little bit of pores right here, just some rust that's been forming. So in order for this to really work well, I need to have a nice clean surface. This comes down to the same rules that we were taught when we started doing this stuff, whether it be by your father or instructor or whoever. There are no real shortcuts. If you get sloppy, if you try and take shortcuts, you're going to end up with issues, and that's exactly what I had by taking shortcuts with this. I ended up having to redo this oil pan again. So there we go. Let me get back to work. Flipping through my toolbox, what I found was actually really good for me in terms of flattening these out was a 1/2 inch extension. Not a 3/8, but a 1/2 inch. The 3/8 was just a little too small, and I don't want it to actually push or create that hole. All I'm really trying to do is get this rise. You can definitely see it right there. I'm trying to bring that down. So let me work on that. It's really hard to do one-handed, by the way. And I've got my brass hammer here and a tiny little ball peen. I'm going to start with that just to see where I go. It's better, it doesn't cut. Like you can see how this one, it has a distinct rise on one side. This rise is gone on this one, but I need to think, I want to bring it down just a little bit more. Again, it's just one of those things you got to take your time with. Let me go. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about that. All right, I'm going to work my way around. So I got it all cleaned up. All the holes are nice and clear. A lot of rust on this pan, especially around the edges. This side doesn't show it as bad, but around on this side, you can see just where the rust has been eaten away out of it. This whole edge is really bad right there. So it's thinned out in some areas, so it was definitely important for me to paint it to try and stop some of that rust from progressing. Yeah, and I'm crazy, so I had to make it paint, or make it look a little bit pretty, even though nobody's gonna ever see it, except for the guy down at Jiffy Lube, but is what it is. So it's gonna sit for a while and let that paint dry. In the meantime, I can get finished cleaning up down below and start applying those gaskets. This is your part, Felpro OS, or is it 0? 0S30126-C1. Yeah, like I was saying, I searched high and low to find a single piece silicone gasket that would work. However, even after talking to Felpro, they don't make one. They make one for the Chevy 350 and small block Chevy, big block Chevy, blah, blah, blah. They don't make one for the straight six. So here's the plan again. I'm going to, on the block itself, I'm going to apply the that little tacky. Where the hell did I put it? Okay, that's going to be another mission. I got to find out where I put it. Might delay the whole project. But anyway, I'm going to apply the high tack on the block itself. Then I'm going to put the cork on, run a screw into each one of these holes to hold it in place. Then with the rear main seal and the front main seal, I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to apply on the block itself. I'm going to apply the high tack, run bolts to hold it in place. There are little standoffs on the front that actually go into the timing chain cover, so that'll help hold it in place. I am going to, once it's all said and done, where the cork gasket ends and it connects with the rubber, I'll be able to put just a tiny little bit of silicone right there to help fill the void. That's the issue I was having before, is part of it was I just had too much RTV on there. And when I tried to push the pan up, it was actually pushing the seal around and making it fall out of place. So shortcuts mean sloppy, and we're back to square one. So let me get to it. Okay, so to give you an idea what I'm talking about, this is what I did right here. I applied the gasket sealant. You can see a little bit of red if I zoom in, like right there. You can see a little bit of overbrush right there. And I put the cork down on top of it. The only drawback is, it's difficult to get to, so what I also did is I used a fresh set of screws. The bolts in this are 1/4-20, so I had those laying around. And I wanted to use the screws, A, because they're easy to get in and out, and B, because they were clean. I didn't have to worry about contaminating up, mucking up everything. As you can see, it's kind of dirty down here, especially just from this oil leak being here for so long. So just let's keep it clean. So I've got one side done, and there's the other side. I got it all nice and cleaned up, nice and dry. There we go. And I'll apply that next, and then go right over the mains itself. So once it's all said and done, I'll let it sit for about an hour or so. Hopefully by that time my pan will be dry enough to handle, and I can finish this installation. So we're just about to do the install. I wanted to show you where we're at. There's a lot of light messing me up here. So there's the front cover seal. It's on. It's got a bolt holding it right there. Same over there. Sorry about this light issue. A lot of my pain has been caused by this right here. It drives, or it's part of the oil pump assembly. And the problem is that the clearance between that and here, it's very minimal. So I think that's where a lot of my problems were coming from when I was reinstalling this. So let me stand up real quick. Oh God, old as shit, falling all over the place. You see, I mean, I had to move the motor mount. The book even calls for, you know, pulling that center pin out of the motor mount and lifting it up. And I had to lift the engine up. And if I had a traditional engine hoist, it would be a lot better. I'm really stressing out these little ratchet straps here, lifting it up, but it worked. It got it up, but it's very difficult to get it up. Here's a joke for you. It's very difficult to lift it all the way up. I've got it up enough so I can get the pan out to get it cleared, but it's just very, very tight. So when I was moving it around before, what was happening was the gasket was dragging along and everything else. So it created a lot of my grief. I still got the pan over there drying. Little pro tip for you to make life easier: get yourself a couple taps. This is a 5/16, and this is the 1/4 inch, and run them up through each one of your holes and clean it out. You'll be surprised at all the goop that comes out of there. So hopefully next time around we'll be able to see that the pan has been installed, and with any luck that board will be gone, and I'll be back on the mount. Whew, so there it is. You see a little oil run right now, just because I finally changed the oil filter too. But it's all in, it's all tightened up. Take your time, do it right. I got a little, hope I didn't get over aggressive on those bolts. That's the real stress right there. Tighten too much, you split the cork and it's all worth nothing. So I got the, my ghetto lift is off. Lowered the engine back down, and it's in its mounts on both sides. So I was gonna just toss some oil in it and start it up and all that other jazz, but I still got to do this this water pump right here. So before I even bother with doing all that, let me get the water pump done and whatever else I can find, right? Other than that, there she is.